What's occurring, PPL fans? We're back with Week 3 Power Rankings. It is, of course, myself, Freedomeon, and I'm leading this week, but I am, of course, joined with Eric. Say hey.
Hey, everybody.
He's super ill this week, so you have to put up with more of me talking. So, Shadi, you're lucky, and the rest of you, not so much, sorry. But we're going to start from the bottom, as we usually do. With number 12, and we do agree on our number 12, don't we?
Yes, we do. I've got Liam on Lawful Exile here.
Yeah.
This game, where do I begin? He's dropped down. I want to say before I kind of start talking here, these bottom three, like, I had a difficult time kind of organizing them, because I definitely think if I could have submitted a three-way tie for 12th, I probably would have done it.
Yeah, my 12, 11, and 10 are like a tied 12th in my head.
But
we can't put them like that.
But Liam falls bottom for me here, because obviously we have to make the decisions because of some prep, just number of kind of prep sorts of errors, and like I'm the type, for me, coming into a game like this, like, obviously it's very easy to screw up in the heat of the moment, you know, make a misplay, do something you wish you hadn't, but to make the kinds of, to do the kinds of stuff he was doing, just like an actual prep that you obviously have days to look at and think about potentially, those bug me a bit. Like, he did some cool things, like bringing Power Whip on the Venusaur to deal with the Mirror Coat Melodic was great.
That was amazing. I saw that move and I was just like, wow, okay, that's some really good foresight. Well done to you.
That made me happy, but then just things like, let's start. I'm just going to pick out a few here. Yet again, he's brought a Venusaur, which is completely walled by not one but two things on RTK's team. He picked out the Bisharp as a potential threat, as well as the Mandibuzz, and he's brought Giga Drain. No, it was Power Whip. I just said Power Whip. Power Whip, Sludge Bomb, and Sleep Powder as his kind of moves to sort of hit something with. And so, you know, obviously Mandibuzz has access to Overcoat, and Bisharp, because Bisharp is more naturally a physically defensive mon. It's going to take either one of those hits decently well, so even if you do hit the Sleep Powder and get it to sleep, you know, it's still not a horrible position to be in, because Sleep Powder obviously isn't like Spore and doesn't even have the guaranteed turn.
Yeah.
He's brought his Specs Vaporeon.
God.
Had Hidden Power Electric, and in his video he said it was for Scyther and Mandibuzz. I want to say that was a mistake, and it was actually for Melodic, because he had Ice Beam, but Melodic, actually, if it's just max HP, not even, you know, especially defensive Melodic, isn't even 2-hit KO'd by Specs Hidden Power Electric. So, like, that's not helping you. I would have rather seen something like Toxic even there, to try to wear it down.
I can't talk about the Specs Vaporeon. I just can't.
Thanks, by the way, I'm going to jump over to something positive here, Liam, because I realize that I'm tearing into you a little bit, but thank you for post-commentating that one. It made it much easier to watch, so yeah, definitely awesome. But aside from that, like, he was surprised at one point when Mandibuzz outsped his Hitmonchan, not knowing that Mandibuzz actually naturally outspeeds his Hitmonchan, and he brought no speed Hitmonchan. So, you know, that was a bit. This is what I talk about, kind of prep mistakes. He brought, you know, he's brought a Mon, which is obviously walled by a couple of things on RTK's team. He's brought Mawile with no way to hit the Mandibuzz particularly hard, because he had no play rough. And then just you know, he's made a number of other sort of little mistakes in his play, but it was those prep mistakes which are kind of the reason why he's at the bottom for me.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Specs Vaporeon, but a physically defensive Vaporeon would have been very good in this scenario, because it would have completely and utterly walled the Bisharp. He had RTK also had a Scyther, which Vaporeon takes on very well. When it's physically defensive, of course. Vaporeon can sit there against Melodic for a while. It's going to be a bit of a stally battle, but you're going to win that one in the end. Then he also had the Venusaur, which, like you said, had Power Whip, but he switched it into a Scald from Melodic. He got very lucky on not getting the burn there.
Yep.
And because he wasn't running a sort of support Vaporeon, he didn't have Heal Bell, so that was incredibly risky, but it worked out for him okay. he used Morwell really, really well for most of the game.
He did, and if you didn't know that he didn't have play rough, like a lot of like he did effectively make it a very good kind of stop to what RTK was trying to do for a lot of the game.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed watching that. And then at the end of the game, he switched it in on a bishop,
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, so I'm not quite sure if he just forgot about Defiant,
yeah.
which I don't think is possible with the bishop.
I mean, it's kind of its big thing, so I don't know if it was just if he forgot about it or just that he was kind of didn't really know what to do at that point in panic, played a little bit.
Yeah, but for the most part, he used it really well, and I was really impressed by the way he used it. The a thing you haven't said was the whole recover thing with the Alakazam and the Focus Sash.
Yeah,
When your Pokemon has a Focus Sash and it gets taken down to 1 HP, the game actually tells you that the Focus Sash broke. So when something's broke, you can't usually fix it in-game. So, like, the game actually acknowledges that it's been broken, because it's a sash. It gets broke, and then you can't use it again, even when you recover up to 100% HP.
yeah. I would have liked to have seen a slightly. I mean, obviously the recover was there because he made that mistake. But I would have liked to have, if he was going to try to play Sucker Punch games with the Bisharp, I would have liked to have seen maybe a subset. And he actually, I think at one point, not only did he not have Dazzling Gleam, so he was forced to rely on Focus Blast to hit the Mendbuzz, but there was one point where he definitely would have knocked it out if he'd been carrying Life Orb over the Focus Ash.
Yeah, and even though Life Orb and Sub don't usually go well together, this was the perfect scenario for it.
Yeah.
But he did some things well, Power Whip, and used Morwell really well for most of the game, but then other things he just didn't do well at all.
Yeah.
But like we've said before, he's still new to the format, but some of the things are being repeat mistakes now. So he's got to start learning to start trying to climb back up the ladder a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's not like gone, and the season isn't over. We're only 3 games played, but he needs to start trying to learn from these games and correct those mistakes.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'll be a D2 season for him next season.
Yep.
So I think we agree on number 11. No,
Yeah.
we don't.
Do we not? No, I've got
No.
Necro Stevo here.
And I've got RTK.
Yeah, right. So I don't actually have a lot to say about Necro, unfortunately. I mean, he's down here because he got 6-0'd by Shoddy. That was basically it. Like Shoddy's, a lot of what kind of the points that I have to say on this game were more kind of good things that Shoddy did. So obviously I'll talk about that when we get to him. He let his Necro. The one thing that I do want to point out, Necro let his Pangoro go way too early when his opponent still had. Well, he lost it when his opponent still had a Porygon 2, and
Yeah.
things looked to get rough like pretty quickly after that. Like aside from that, I mean, I think he's having some issues, and I think some of that is really just to do with the weaknesses in his draft. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at that team that he brought, Pangoro, Mega Abomasnow, Rotom, Wash, Scizor, Zygarde, and Chandelure, a lot of 4x weaknesses, and it's just like that becomes such an issue in draft because when you're dealing with a 4x weakness, it's not a question of somebody needing to run like a decently powerful coverage move. Like they can just stack a hidden power on something, as Shoddy did with P2 running hidden power. I think it was Fire.
Fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fire. You can just tack those moves on, and it becomes very, very difficult because all you have to do, all your opponent has to do is surprise you with one sneaky hidden power, and that's a Mongon.
Yeah.
So, I really don't have much to say. He just got leveled, and he let the Pangoro go too soon. I still think he can turn it around, but he needs to figure out how he's going to try to work with this team.
Yeah. I'll talk about Necro next.
Cool.
After I'm done with RTK. I don't really have much to say about RTK, because the game was kind of overtaken on my notes by everything that Liam did or didn't do. But RTK didn't play that well this game. He was lucky, I think, in what Liam brought, and it made the game winnable for him. like there were some good switches here and there from both of the players in the game, but overall it wasn't a strong game from either side.
Yeah.
And after having watched RTK last season and watching RTK this season, it's like watching two completely different people. And I know RTK's team, like we've picked up on it not having like some sort of really hard hitters. I think he needs to try and fix that in the next transfer window because he didn't fix it in the first transfer window.
Yeah, definitely.
And hopefully RTK can get back to how RTK was last season, basically.
Yeah. I mean, that's more or less it. I've got him at number 10, so we can segue nicely into 10th.
I like segues.
Segues are good. So, like you, I don't have a load of notes about this game. I liked the Shookaberry Bisharp to take on the Mamoswine. I liked the Chartyberry Rotom Heat. It's like he was well prepped for some of the threats on Liam's team. But then, like, the big glaring kind of thing that jumped out at me was the not knowing that Mirror Code is actually negative priority.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I think he dropped the IVs on his Melodic just so that he would underspeed a Mega Venusaur with no negative speed nature. And as it turned out, because Liam brought a mixed Mega Venusaur, it was a negative speed nature. But he played in like around thinking that he couldn't actually use Mirror Coat. I mean, as it turned out, he couldn't because that was one of Liam's positive points. He brought Power Whip. But that just like... It's those kinds of errors, like when we were talking about Liam, it's those kinds of errors where like you don't even know how, like you have potentially days, even if it's just a day or even a few hours to prepare a team for a game, you should, like the minimum you should kind of know if you want to stand a fighting chance is how all of the moves and abilities on your Mons work. That just made me sad. Like, the game, as you said, it wasn't particularly strong. I mean, he overpredicted a lot of the game. Staying in first turn with the Rotom and going for a Will-O-Wisp predicting the Mamoswine. I mean, yes, had he gone for a Volt Switch, that would have been less than ideal for the Mamoswine to come in and eat that up, but he did have a defensive Melodic in the back, so it wouldn't have been a huge issue. And I personally am not one for making those kinds of really risky plays turn one, just because you don't know how your opponent is going to attack this game. And as it turned out, Liam made him pay for it big time. He's got his first win of the season, and that's why he's in 10th, as opposed to the other two guys, but like there's a very good chance, if he doesn't pick it up a bit, that he could be moving right back down into 11th or 12th in the following weeks. Because, like, as you said, Liam let him off a little bit with some of the sets he brought, like, that just completely, were almost completely useless against some of the mons that he brought. I mean, he played the Mandibuzz well. He kind of wrapped the game up fairly nicely, but it wasn't a super strong game.
No. But I've got Necro as my number 10. And like you, most of my notes are for Shardy rather than against Necro. There's a couple of things, though. I just want to say lol at that damage from Zygarde, like the outrage on P2. I was just, wow, that did nothing. It goes to show how bulky P2 is. Well,
and how Zygarde, as far as dragons go, like, it's more bulky, but you really, when you see it up against a real wall, you see just how kind of weak it is in comparison to some of the others.
Yeah, you can see why it's not really used at all. But like Eric said, the Pangoro went down far too early. It was the only thing Necro had for P2, and it just went down, down, down. Unfortunately for him, of course, but I'm not sure if he could have played it that much differently. He could have been a bit more conservative with the Pangoro.
Yeah, and I mean, he said a couple of times that like he wanted to predict the Ice Punch on the Crobat coming in and stuff like that, but then he made the safe plays, and it just, maybe had he been a little bit more, had he taken a couple of risks that he didn't, potentially, but as you said, like, I don't think he could have played it too much differently.
Yeah, unfortunately. The other thing is he's got quite a hail problem with his team because he doesn't have any immunities to hail apart from Mega Abomasnow. and it really showed with the Scizor.
Yeah, it
After
did.
it's set up, he was like, okay, I can sweep you, I'm going to live the hail. But he didn't live the hail.
Yeah.
He has no immunities for it, and he's either got a very frail team in some of his Pokemon, or he's got some very bulky things, but they're all going to take hail damage. The frail things aren't going to appreciate it because they don't appreciate damage, and then the bulky things don't appreciate chip damage.
Yep.
So maybe next transfer window, mate, you may want to get rid of Mega Abomasnow.
Yeah, as excited as we were to see it, it's just not really worked out these first 3 weeks.
No, it's not doing anything for him. If he was to, like, say, get, I don't know, like a Mega Houndoom, like, he can switch the Flash Fire in, or something that is going to resist fire he wants, really, looking at the rest of his team.
Yeah, and actually, his team has a, it could work kind of in the context of his team, Say he figures out some way to get sun into his team. Chandelure likes to be hitting things in the sun, so...
Yeah. Or just get something insanely bulky instead. Because he's still got 2 million to play with as well.
Yeah, he does. So he
could switch it for 12 million Mega, if there are any.
Yeah, that would be... Yeah, but just, I think something needs to change.
Yeah. But that's all I got on Necro. I think we disagree here.
We disagree. At number 9, I've got Alex.
I don't have Alex.
Yeah,
I have Alex at number 8, so...
So I moved him down because he lost, but I don't think we have any uploads from him yet, so I don't really know his sets or the reasoning beyond kind of what I saw in the battle against Trav, or kind of why he was doing things. I think we saw in that game very much how Marowak really justified itself as a round 5 selection there after it lost its thick club, doing I think 19 damage to Mega Audino at +2. Trav's commentary said that actually he misclicked near the end and didn't hit and meant to hit Trick Room, which actually could have potentially got him back into the game, which would have been interesting to see. But obviously, so this is if that is the case. This is what, like, the second week in 3 where an error has kind of potentially cost him a game-winning position, which isn't great.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the sets, even the sets from him, I don't really have a lot to talk about here. I think Escavalier was a good choice, I think, this game, just because he does a lot of work against Trav's team, barring the Embor. But I don't really have a lot to go on for Alex. So
yeah, that's always.
Unfortunately, I put him there because he lost, and it seemed about right. But I don't have a lot to really say about that game.
Okay. Well, Alex is my number 8, so I'll talk about my number 9, who is Kelly. Body Slam Togekiss, like hello cancer. Just getting all of the paralysis, just literally everywhere. It's like, I'm gonna click Body Slam, and I am 100% going to get this paralysis. And he really did spread it. Thankfully, Jack had Heal Bell on the floor just there, so it didn't matter all too much. But there was a couple of things that Kelly did in this game that I wasn't too impressed with. Mainly while Kelly had the Flygon in on the Florges, and then he switches into Manectric when Florges is 100% attacking.
Yeah.
And like, we've both had Mega Manectric in draft format. It doesn't appreciate damage, and you just gave him free damage.
Well, and especially because Florges' base special attack is really nothing to sneeze at. It's not like a lot of other walls, that even if they hit you, they're not going to do a lot of damage. I mean, it took like 75% off the Manectric.
Yeah, it just... that leaves a couple of rock switch-ins, and it's gone, basically.
Yeah. That's the thing about Manectric. It's a mon which enjoys hit and run, but if it starts taking damage, it can get worn down very, very fast.
Yeah. It's one of those mons that your team has kind of got to allow for it to do what it needs to, and just get the hits off while it can and get out of there. It needs a lot of free switches in, or it needs, to be on the back end of some good momentum.
Yeah.
So that wasn't great. He let the Toga Kits take the knockoff, which was really important for Jack because he needed to break that thing. And Kelly's team is just showing again that it's just fat. Like, even though he has Infernape, he brought the wrong Infernape set, and he has a Zoom Roll. Everything else is just fat, and once it gets worn down, it's served its purpose and it's going to die. So, again, this is another team that needs a lot of fixing in the transfer windows. Like, I don't think he made any changes in the last one.
I don't think so either.
He didn't, and with so many flaws, you kind of need to start making changes. But yeah, hopefully Kelly can pull it back because Kelly's played a lot of draft format, and I know he can play better than this.
Definitely.
And he can make more sensible teams than what he made. So hopefully he starts to change it around a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
No, I've actually got Kelly at number 8, so that works out perfectly.
Hey.
So, you know, a lot of you've said a lot of it already. I liked some of the. I did like some of the sets that he brought. Like the Iron Tail on Mega Manectric was cool. I was happy to see that. But then, of course, he let it take damage, so it wasn't able to do, I think, what it was really designed for. The Azumarill missing an Iron Tail was unfortunate, but then again, it's like 75% accurate, so it's going to miss. I liked the mixed Flygon on his team, but I think the more I think about it, like the way he brought it in, I think it was against the Skarmory, just kind of screamed flamethrower.
Yeah.
So like I can see why Jack was able to kind of make that prediction and play around it pretty well. And then you could just sort of see him getting more frustrated as the battle went on. Like I think he knew he was beaten, and it started to get to him a little bit. You know, the Togedemac got knocked off. And Jack was just kind of, he played around everything Kelly tried to do for the most part pretty well. I mean, it ended up being 3-0 to Jack, but you know, it was like Kelly just kind of throughout the match just sort of continued to come off second best. Some of his sets were clever and they were interesting to see, but he's going to need to do a little bit more than that if he wants to kind of be challenging, you know, further up the table for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. My number 8 is Alex. So we have got them nice and flipped. We do this a lot.
We do, actually.
Yeah. Again, though, we can't really say much about Alex because we don't have his perspective of the battle. But he played quite a good game against Trav.
He did, really.
Like, it was one of the games this week where it was kind of evenly matched in places. I've written down my notes here, and it's been a while since we watched the battles because we're recording this late in the week. So I'm going to need Eric to confirm this for me. But I've got down that he went for a double toxic, and that Dazzling Gleam wouldn't have done much. I think that was Mega Sableye versus Mega Ordino.
Yeah, Trav seemed convinced that it would have done more than... It seemed almost like Alex was pretty sure he'd take it, whereas Trav was pretty convinced it was like a 2-hit KO or something in that range. So without knowing exactly what set Alex brought, it's hard to say. If it was especially defensive Mega Sableye, I could believe pretty well that it would take a couple of Dazzling Gleams from Mega Onino because it's not the most offensive Mon out there.
No, it's really weak unless it's got a couple of Calm Minds up.
So it's hard to say. This is where we get kind of stung by not having the other side because I don't know what the sets were.
Yeah. But even if it wasn't especially defensive, it still could have taken one decently well.
Yeah, and that really seemed to throw Trav for a loop a bit. So Alex was able to kind of play on that pretty well.
Yeah. The one thing Trav did say from Alex's side, though, was that when he went for Thunder with Victini, he meant to click Trick Room.
Yeah.
This is the second time in 3 weeks that you've misclicked Alex. So pay a little more attention, buddy, because if you had hit Trick Room right at that moment, that game was 100% yours. There was no way he was losing if he'd hit Trick Room there because Trav had a Tailwind up.
Yeah.
So literally everything on Alex's team would have outsped Trav's team because of the tailwind and the trick room.
Yeah, I mean, Alex has been a little unfortunate so far this season. I mean, he's what, 1-2 now, and I mean, he lost to Shroom mainly because of a misgen. He's lost here mainly because of a misclick.
Yeah. So it goes to show that it's not really Alex's playing that's making him lose. It's attention to detail. So definitely, please don't make any more misclicks, because that would have been the lord of all plays.
It would have been.
If you'd pulled that back with the trick room.
It would have been.
I would have loved seeing that.
I would have applauded him, and I would have moved him like right up the table.
Yeah, he would have at least gone up a place on my list. But yeah, that's all I got to say from Alex, because unfortunately we don't have his side.
Yeah.
So number 7, I think we agree?
I've got Frank here at number 7.
No, we don't agree.
We don't agree.
That must mean that my number 7 is your number 6.
Probably. So I've moved Frank up 2 places here because, again, I think this week he has played really, really well against Shroom. I really liked some of his sets. Let me just grab my notes here. The Heat Wave on Golbat was good. The speed creep, like the bulky Stoutland came in huge. I liked the AV Snorlax set with Crunch and Gunk Shot. That was looking to be, that actually was rather critical. I was happy to see Future Sight Gardevoir and Fire Fang on the Hippowdon. You know, it was well prepped from his side of things. He started really strong, getting the Snorlax in on the Latias and getting rid of it early. That was that was huge, and he played really well to kind of stay in control for most of the game after. He got a little bit lucky with a crit on the return against Blaziken, but then, it's Pokemon, crits and misses happen. And it's not like he hadn't played well enough to deserve the victory up till then. He really put Shroom into a difficult position very fast, and it would have been a little bit almost unfair to Frank, I think, had Shroom managed to actually pull that one back.
Yeah. That was the best played game this week.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion, from both sides. They were both phenomenal.
I watched it live, and it was a beautiful game to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I've got Frank a little bit higher than you.
Yeah.
So my number 7 is Slyro, and he played Sam and got wrecked by Sam, which everybody's getting wrecked by Sam. So don't let that put you down.
Yeah.
Because Sam is literally just like, oh, I'm going to bring this Pokemon and it's going to wreck you. And the Pokemon that did that this week was Talonflame.
Pretty much.
Talonflame it ended Sly's life. It got to 5-4 in Sam's favor, and Sly just, in his narration, he sounded like he'd given up at that point.
Yeah, you could see his head dropped. He knew that he had nothing for the Talonflame.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, this is just going to be me trying to get something back, maybe, somehow, potentially. You could literally just see those words flying through his head.
Yeah.
And it was like, but I'm not quite sure what I have to do to bring this back. Yeah. And there was pretty much nothing he could do. And he knew it, unfortunately. He also said that Lantern?
Lantern.
No, Lantern. Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Lantern is a Blastoise switch-in. Not that set.
No, not just max HP Assault Vest. I mean, people underestimate just how hard Mega Blastoise hits, especially with coverage moves, thanks to Mega Launcher. I love Mega Blastoise.
Yeah.
And yeah, that really hurt him. I mean, he lost his Blastoise switch into Blastoise. So
yeah. So it should have had a lot more special defense investment with the Assault Vest, and it could have taken hits then, but unfortunately for him, the set he brought just didn't take anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mega Blastoise is your spirit animal.
It
or
is.
Your spirit Pokemon. It is. It really is. Sorry to go off track. But number 6.
Number 6, I've actually got Sly here.
Yeah, so we are flipped again.
Yeah, we're flipped again. He's dropped down 2 places again because I wanted to move some people up. I didn't think he played it particularly awful. It was kind of lost to an extent in prep. Like he had Hidden Power Rock, I think it was, on his Arcanine, which was cool to make it as a Talonflame check, but then he never really used it. But then again, Sam had the bulky Talonflame, which I imagine probably would have taken Hidden Power Rock from a defense, because it was a defensive Arcanine. It wasn't special. It wasn't invested.
Yeah.
The Roserade was Scarfed, which, like, one of the sets which I really wasn't a fan of this game was the Scarf Roserade. But I mean, Sly said, he said it himself in his narration, so I'm not going to fault him too much for that. Like, Roserade had the coverage to potentially hit anything on Sam's team hard, and then he Scarfed it, so it was a case of basically Sam realized very quickly it was Scarfed, and then just bring in whatever he needed to take whatever he Scarfed himself into. I know he wanted, I'm sure he wanted the, you know, the speed from the Scarf, but at the same time, for a mon like Roserade, like in this sort of game, you need to be able to switch it up, because otherwise it's just that sort of thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the Weavile set. I mean, I could see why he did it. I think he said it was so that like no special coverage from Nidoqueen. He had like Assault Vest and some bulk. Like no special coverage from Nidoqueen could 2-hit KO him, but then it didn't really ever come into a place where it mattered, but I don't know. Weavile is another one which could have potentially hurt Sam's team a fair bit. I would have liked to seen it just doing a bit more than it did. Like I said, he didn't play it particularly awfully. I liked his offensive Bronzong. It was just unfortunate that it got burned, so then Rock Slide just wasn't doing anything to the Talonflame. He lost his Arcanine to, I think his Arcanine, which was his Talonflame check, went down to, I think it was Talonflame. And Lantern, which was his Blastoise check, went down to Blastoise, and that was just kind of the story of this game. Like, Sam just kind of, it was another one where, like, Sly tried to do some interesting stuff, but the sets that Sam brought, it showed, you know, a lot of foresight, and he was just able to kind of nullify everything that Sly tried to do from pretty early on. But that's sort of been the story of his season so far.
Yeah.
I mean, thick, fat, rocky helmet, Hariyama. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
Yeah, so my number 6 is Frank. And like I already said, this game between Frank and Shroom was the most well played from both sides. It was a proper battle. It wasn't like one of them just swept the other, which was basically every other game this week.
Yeah.
Like Frank was in control, and then Shroom was in control. But Frank played a really good game. So did Shroom. Max Speed Mega Sizzle really got Frank, which was good for Shroom. And there was, of course, the hacks, which was a Hurricane Miss and the crit, I do believe, or was there 2 Hurricane Misses?
There was one Hurricane Miss, but it didn't matter, and then there was one at the end where, I mean, based on the calcs, I think they showed us afterward that because of the bulk on Frank's Stoutland, it was like a 12.5% chance to OHKO, so it wasn't much, but, you know, the way that...
It could have mattered.
It could have mattered.
But that crit definitely did matter, but I'm not going to sort of mark Frank down for crits going in his favor, because, like you said, it's Pokemon, it happens. If Shroom got in the situation where that crit really did matter for him, because Frank took the early lead, but if things hadn't gone that way, then that crit wouldn't have mattered so much anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I watched it from Frank's perspective first, and then Shroom's, and I was just really impressed by this game overall. It was nice to see such a competitive battle, and it's nice, like you've highlighted some of Frank's sets. They were all really good, and I think they were more suited for the team this week than his sets have been the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I feel like Frank is settling in now. He's found his feet. So I'm hoping to see him climb up.
Yeah, I get that same feeling from him, that he's finally kind of settled in here, which is always good to see, because you don't, you know, never great to see kind of somebody with, you know, still adjusting to the team and struggling a bit.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got. So number 5.
I've got Jack at number 5.
Yeah, we're different again.
So Jack. Let me find his notes. My notes about Jack. Okay, so he again, this is a really well prepped and a very well controlled game from Jack. I really enjoyed the physical Nidoking and the Assault Vest Heliolisk. Those were good kind of points of prep, I think, on Jack's part, especially the Assault Vest Heliolisk. Because obviously Heliolisk isn't the bulkiest mon in the world, but when you're dealing with Mega Manectric, which is probably going to be Volt switching a lot of the time, because it's a resisted hit, it definitely would. I don't think it came into where it mattered too much again, but it was a nice bit of prep, and I could see what he was doing with it. He played around the Flygon pretty well. Like I said, I think the more I watch it, when Kelly, even if he wasn't expecting mixed Flygon, when Kelly brought Flygon in on Skarmory, you're going to be thinking, okay, well, physical Dragon Stab isn't going to do much. Even physical Fire Stab physical Fire coverage isn't going to do much. It's a Skarmory, so he's got to have special coverage, especially after he'd seen the Life Orb. I wasn't too keen about him leading Zoroark, just because that's kind of the thing that people do with Zoroark, lead it off and then lead off with it. But it worked out because, as Kelly said, I think in his narration, he was in a situation where he couldn't really take the risk that it was the lead Zoroark.
Yeah.
But he really just he kept momentum up and kept it going really nicely. I think there was one point at the game where he was able to just kind of wrap it up by roosting with Mega Latios, because that thing is so freaking bulky that he knew that he would be able to. Basically, Kelly was at a point where he wouldn't be able to drop its HP again, and it was like I said, it was a very well controlled game from the start with Jack.
It was. I have Jack a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So my number 5 is Shroom. I said it about I was talking about Frank. That was a big pause, wasn't it? Shroom with the max speed Mega Sizzle, that was really good, because it took Frank by surprise, because who runs max speed Mega Sizzle?
Yeah.
Shroom was unfortunate with the hacks. I think the only thing I can put Shroom down for was I think he misplayed Lati against the Snorlax.
He did, yeah.
But Shroom realized that. That's the good thing with Shroom, is he knows where he went wrong, and you don't see Shroom make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, you rarely have to tell Shroom when he's messed up. He knows.
Yeah. So it's literally just, I'm repeating Shroom there. But again, I just want to say again that this was a fantastic battle to watch. I would have liked the Hurricane to have hit at the end, which I know Shroom would have as well, obviously.
Yeah.
I just would have liked to have seen if that game came down to the roll or not.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to see, because it missed, we're never going to know.
Yeah, because it was tense as it was, but if that Hurricane had hit, it would have just been so much more tense.
It would have been.
But that's all I've got to say. It was fantastic play from both parts again.
Yeah. Well, my number 4 is actually Shroom, so
Hey.
It's still working well. As you said, Shroom played this game really, really well. I thought as you said, he lost his Latias definitely too early, because he fell, I think, into a 6-4 hole there after the Latias went down, and then he lost. I can't remember what it was. Fell into a 6-4 hole there very early on, and then it was kind of a job to try to pull it back for him, and Frank was kind of just, I ain't having any of that. His sets, again, glorious. The Scarf Blaziken with just enough HP investment to take a crunch plus return from Stoutland, that was really, had the crit not happened, that could have potentially been a really, really clever bit of prep. Obviously the max speed Mega Scizor. The defensive Jellicent looked to be doing a good job against the Stoutland, but obviously it was toxic, so that was rather unfortunate for Shroom. But all in all, it was a really, really well played game from him. The only time I really had anything to say against Shroom was sort of that beginning phase where he got his Latias in against the Snorlax and then couldn't really afford to switch it out. He struggled a little bit with the Golbat early on, because obviously it can potentially carry Heat Wave, and he knew that. And it seemed like he didn't have a lot which really dealt well with the Golbat. I mean, he had the Latias, which went down early. The Sylveon, I mean, if it's a defensive Golbat, even with which it was, even if it's got spec Psyshock, it's going to take one because it's a Golbat. So it seemed like maybe like that gave him a little bit of difficulty early on, but you know, Tornadus was almost a champ, and either way, a very, very well played game from him. You know, he, as you said, he knows where he went wrong, and I think he will definitely. I think he's actually got Sam next week, so that is going to be a really fun one to watch.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
I am too.
I know Sam has Shardy the week after.
Yeah, so some very, you know, going to be very, very interesting to see how these this top section shifts around in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, really looking forward to that.
But yeah, well played from Shroom. You know, a little bit unfortunate, but it was just a really, really good game overall.
Yeah. My number 4 is Jack.
Yeah, there we go.
Jack has dropped a place for me, but this isn't actually Jack dropping, it's someone else moving up. Jack has been playing so well this season. Every game I've watched of Jack's, I've just sat there and I've thought, Jack is completely and utterly in control of this. And this was another game where Jack just... I don't think Jack had to think about what he was doing. It was just like point and click for him because he was that much in control.
He got into that situation, I think, where he was able to do the safe things, and that's always kind of the situation you want to be in, where you sort of force your opponent to have to make the plays. Like, I know that I can pretty safely go for a roost here, and there's not a lot you can do about it.
Yeah, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He went for the knockoff on Togekiss, even though he was, like, you know, going to lose his Zoroark. But he knows he needed to do it, so he did.
Yeah, and in fact, if you listen to his commentary, very early on he was like, I've got to keep this around so I can knock off the Togedic. I've got to keep this around so I can knock off the Togedic.
Yeah, I said Togekiss, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, like, he just managed to have a Nidoking cleanup in the end because of the way he played the game.
Yep.
It was just... It's so well controlled, and I don't feel like I should be saying that about Jack, because...
It's weird, isn't it?
It's Jack. Like, you know, the scrub fanatic.
Yeah.
But well done. I said it last week, I'm pretty sure I said it the week before, but he's improved so much since the PPL started in this format. And it shows that he has a team that he's comfortable with. And that is the main thing in League format, is you can draft Pokemon. You can be like, this Pokemon's very, very good in draft format. And you can draft it. But it may not be a Pokemon you're comfortable with.
Exactly.
And Jack has managed to sort of structure a team that are good or decent in this format, but they're all Pokemon he's comfortable with, and he's comfortable with the team as a whole, and it shows.
It does.
Because he can be that much in control.
Just like with the guy who I have next.
So, the guy you have next is going to be the guy I have next after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm going to leave it there with Jack. It was a very, very well played game. If things work out for Jack, he could even be a title contender.
It's definitely a possibility the way he's playing right now.
So I genuinely want to see that, because I mainly want to hear Shardy's reaction to Jack taking a title, basically.
What if Jack took it from Shardy at the last day or something? That would be...
Oh my god, that is the dream. Please let that happen. Please. But yeah, you can talk about your number 3 now, mate.
My number 3 is Shardy. What can I say about this game? The only thing I have down here was the Shoddy show.
It's like, calm down, Shoddy.
Yeah, it was his prep was on point again, and he just, like, I can't think of a play that he made that I would have told, I can even, like, complain about. It was just, this is another one who has a team of Mons which he's comfortable with, and it really, really shows. He's playing so well, and I really don't have anything bad to say. I mean, it's hard to say something bad about somebody who won 6-0, but it's like I really don't have anything bad to say about this game. You know, he had some really there were some really good set decisions, things like the HP fire on P2, which we talked about before. He, you know, staying in with the seismitoad, I think it was against Mega Obama Snow. At one point, you know, knowing that the grass move wasn't coming.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
It was like he made the risky plays at just the right times, got them all right, and he made the safe plays when he had to. It was just there was nothing bad from him this week.
Yeah. So I can talk about my number 3.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, that was nice and quick.
Yeah.
You've heard that before. So my number 3 is going to be Trav. He played a pretty decent game against Alex. He's dropped as well for me, but that's because my next one moved up.
Yeah.
Again. I touched on it. Well, I didn't touch on it. I actually explained it earlier when talking about Alex, about the double toxic. Alex was 100% comfortable in going for a double toxic at that point. So I don't think he should have been as shocked as he was. He also should have taken the opportunity to KO in the Mega Sableye while he had it, rather than letting it get that recover off.
Definitely.
Because he needed that thing dead, because it was a stop to his team. He got lucky with Alex's misclick, but he played out the opposing Tailwind very, very well.
He did.
And that was kind of high-level Pokemon to watch someone doing that. Because obviously he needed his Tailwind to sort of secure him the win.
Yep.
But he kind of just had to play around for a few turns, and he played around really well.
He did.
He could have easily lost the game in those few turns, just because he had to do a lot of playing around. But he managed to control that situation very well. And obviously he got the upper hand at the end of it, because he was able to play that out and get his Tailwind up.
Yep.
Which was really good. He made the risky switch into Latios on their I forgot his name, Marowak. When there was the Bone Meringue, because he said it's either going to be a Bone Meringue or an Earthquake. It could have quite easily have not have been one of those moves.
Yeah.
But that was a risk versus reward play, and he got the reward out of it.
He did, yeah.
Like it was touched upon in the PPL chat that those sort of plays, they're only good plays if they work out for you in the end.
Yeah.
But that was a good play regardless, because he weighed up the risk versus the reward, and he knew the reward was bigger than the risk at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, because it allowed him to get rid of the Marowak there at the end.
Yeah, so it's good to see players in this league making those decisions and being able to come out on top with them.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's it for Trav for me.
Right, now we can move right into my number 2, who is Trav.
Hey!
This is funny, actually, how we've done this week. So you've touched on a lot of it. You know, it was a really solid game from Trav. I liked some of his sets. White Herb on Latios was well thought out. It was another one where he managed to waste kind of the sort of well thought out item that he had on him on, you know, with the weakness policy on Tyranitar last week. And the Mold Breaker Excadrill to get up rocks, even in the case of Mega Sableye, you know, it was really, really good. And I just liked the way he played the game, you know, on the whole. A couple of little things like setting up bulk ups with Thundurus when there was still a Kyurem around, and I think his only attacking move was Thunder Punch, so he wasn't gonna be, he needed to get rid of that first, really. But overall, it was, as you say, you know, it was a very well controlled game. I think he made some really good, you know, some really good decisions there, some risky plays that worked out for him, some of those kinds of plays that, you know, you if they work, you look like a genius, and if they don't, you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But it all kind of worked out for him at the end there, and then because of the potential misclick, because obviously we don't have Alex's side to know how exactly what was going through his head there. You know, he takes this 1-0 in what was probably one of the better games this week.
Yeah, definitely. So, my number 2?
Yeah, go for it.
So, my number 2 is Shadi.
Yeah.
When I was first asked if I wanted to do these power rankings, I thought, great, I get a chance to shit on Shardy, which was basically like the selling point of me. It's basically the only reason I wanted to do it was literally I thought every week I get to shit on Shardy. That's just going to be perfection. I've got a lot of payback to give to Shardy. And then Shardy keeps playing like this and makes it really hard for me to shit on him.
Yeah, he must have like heard you.
Yeah, he's like, oh god, Fredo's doing PR. I've got to play like I can and not make all the stupid mistakes that I usually make.
Yeah.
So, literally, the only thing I have to say about this game is mana fee.
Yeah.
Shardy he knew exactly when to use mana fee, and he knew when to take mana fee out of the equation. Like, you picked up on the staining with Seismitoad on the potential grass move, but Shardy just knew that he was going for the ice move because the grass move was so obvious. Shardy he played it so damn well, and I hate that I have to say that about Shardy.
Yeah.
But there's a reason he has literally just climbed up our rankings.
Oh yeah, he was near the bottom at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, I think we had him at 9 and 10.
Yeah.
But that was purely because of his team. But we did say when we were doing the post-draft analysis that, post-draft rankings, not analysis, that Shardy had drafted a very Shardy team, and it may not look good, everybody, but that's like Shardy's wet dream in that team.
Yeah, and he's proving it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is why you draft teams that you're comfortable with.
Yep.
So every time a Pokemon draft league drafts for this season, you get people on Twitter, they put down Pokemon that you draft. They look at where you picked up certain Pokemon based on the rounds. Like, oh, you picked that up too early. But Shardy's team literally shows why these people are wrong.
Yeah.
And why you shouldn't listen to them, why you shouldn't feel bad if they're slating your draft. You're always going to get someone that doesn't like your draft on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it might be for personal reasons. Maybe they just don't like a Pokemon, or maybe they're like, oh, you took that too early. But Shardy managed to get the team he wanted.
Yeah.
And if we could all be so lucky as Shardy this season to get teams that we are that comfortable with, then draft play would be so much better.
Yeah.
Because it'd be a lot more competitive if we could all have teams we're that comfortable with.
I think Shardy is just proving like why anytime somebody asks me about kind of what I think they should pick up, say in a league or whatever, like one of the first pieces of advice I always give is, try to take things like, the good mons where they're available, but take stuff which you feel comfortable with, especially for your first couple of seasons, before you start trying to experiment, because even if the team doesn't look great on paper, or if they're mons which maybe you've taken earlier than people think is good, Shoddy is just proving exactly why you stick with mons which you know how to use, because that level, you get to that level of comfort where like he just he's been making plays this season, and it's just like you get the feeling that he doesn't even have to think about it. He just knows that is going to take this hit, or I need to bring this in here, because he knows what these different mons can do in these different situations. He doesn't have to sit down and figure out, oh, what's my best play, and that I think has been one of the biggest reasons why he's been, after I think our shared number one, probably the best team in the league this season.
Yeah, definitely. If Shoddy keeps this up, though, I may have to give him number one at some point.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Sam versus Shoddy, honestly.
It's going to be an amazing game. I'm recording with Shoddy that week as well.
Nice.
So I'm either going to get a really salty Shoddy or a really excited Shoddy.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure which one I want the most. Just the salty Shoddy for laughs.
Yeah.
Or the really excited Shoddy because I know it's going to be a better session then.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I've got nothing more I can say about that.
Yeah, we take our hats off to how well he's been playing this so far this season.
Yeah. And trust me, I'm dying a little bit inside having to compliment him so much.
I'm sure you are.
Well, it's not even a little bit, it's just I can feel what I have left of my, cold, dead heart just going away. Like, there's nothing there anymore. I've just got a hole where it used to be.
Your heart grew 3 sizes.
Yeah, so number 1.
I think we're agreed here.
Yeah.
Sam stays number 1.
We've agreed on our number 1 and our number 12, and that is all we've agreed on.
Well, hey, I guess at least we got a couple right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll let you take Sam first.
What can I even say about this game? It was another one from him that was just, it was beautiful to watch. I loved his sets. The Scarf Rachi was perfect. I actually had this matchup in TBU this season with Rachi against Altaria, and Scarf Rachi is just, it's one of the, in my mind, one of the better ways to deal with kind of Altaria in this format, just because it outspeeds it even at +1. Jirachi is bulky enough to take a neutral Earthquake, and you have that 60% flinch chance, so you can just kind of spam Iron Head against it and force it back out. The specially defensive Talonflame was perfect for this game, and it was kind of the end of Sly. He just had nothing for it. I mean, he had, like I said, I think when we talked about Sly, he had Hidden Power Rock on Arcanine, but I don't think even that would have done too much. The Blastoise with a bit of speed investment was great. I mean, seeing Blastoise 2-hit KO, or not 2-hit KO, I think it was 3-hit KO in the end, but just like 2-hit KO when it came back in, the thing which was supposed to be Sly's Blastoise check. The Cabiaberry Togekiss, and the defensive thick fat Hariyama with Rocky Helmet for Arcanine and Weavile. Like, this was another one where it's like his ability to predict what his opponent was going to bring was almost scary, and he took control, and he just, after, like you said, I think at about 5-4, he just didn't look like he was ever going to lose.
Yeah. The only other person I've ever seen that can predict a team like Sam can is Gabe.
Yeah, actually.
And that's, like, the best skill you can have in this format is being able to predict your opponent's team, like those two predict. Like, you can lose the game just based on you predicting one wrong Pokemon.
You can.
Or one wrong set. And that's not happening because he's like, oh, I know what they're bringing, so I'm going to bring this.
Yeah, he's just been spot on every time.
I wish I had that skill, I really do.
Yeah.
It's like, as we just mentioned with Shadi and having a comfortable team, which is something you need to learn if you ever plan on playing in draft format, or if you are playing in draft format and you're not really doing that well. Like, you can look at how Shadi's constructed his team, and then you need to learn from Sam on how he's predicting his opponents and the sets he's bringing for what he's predicting. Like, it's a skill that you may not be able to perfect, but from watching Sam, hopefully you can improve the skill you have. Like, I'm watching Sam's and I'm like, oh, okay, like, I'm learning from Sam. And I've been playing in leagues since the beginning of XY.
Yeah, I'm learning from Sam, and I've played 70 battles or so in league format.
Yeah. So for us two to have so much experience in league format and to be learning from someone, like, there's a reason that he has to be top of our power rankings.
Yeah.
Like, the prep, the play, everything about what Sam does in this format, it has clinical precision.
It does, and that is, I think, the best way to describe him. He's just been clinical.
Yeah, which is funny because he's a doctor.
Yeah, that is actually funny, but hey.
But yeah, I can't say much more about Sam. Like, I know I didn't really speak about the game, and I spoke more about Sam as a player there.
Yeah.
In this format, but there's not much to say about the game.
No, the thing is, every week so far, it's been him bringing sets which are perfectly tailored to the game, with a good game plan, designed to take the other team apart and just executing it flawlessly. And so, I mean, there's not much else to say.
Yeah, so that's going to be our week 3 power rankings. I've been Fredo, he's been Eric. He's been an Eric with a cold.
Yep.
Obviously, as we say every week, all of the important stuff is going to be in the description. So the coaches' links, their links to our channels, all the analysts that are involved. Yeah, I don't think I've missed anything important.
No, I want to say just really quickly, apologies for this being a little bit late this week.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think we are actually we're a little bit late this week, but there were some scheduling issues kind of league-wide, and it was like we got to, you know, it actually took the majority of the week for everybody to get their games up, so we could kind of adequately watch everything. And as you guys have seen from the rankings, you know, we didn't even get great opportunities to watch some of them, so I mean, we couldn't have really recorded it before now. But yeah, apologies that this is coming late.
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for watching. The games for week 4 will hopefully be uploaded this Saturday on time, and this should be on time next week.
Definitely.
Which is supposed to be Thursday.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll see you next Thursday. And
Indeed.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.